So welcome, welcome. Appreciate you joining me today for Training Bites. If you have any questions during the presentation, there is a chat window on your Ring Central toolbar. If you don't see the chat, then go to More. We will have a Q&A at the end. You can ask me anything you like. So welcome to Training Bites, a digestible approach to counterpoint training. My name is Gina Thomas. I'm the training manager here at C&K Systems and your hostess for Training Bites. When your server crashes or needs rebooting, your associates are unable to ring sales, and that's a problem. Because if you're not able to ring sales, chances are you're going to lose sales because people aren't going to wait around. When you lose sales, you lose revenue. Another thing is payroll. If your server crashes, your people can't ring sales, they're standing around doing nothing, but you still have to pay them. When you can't ring sales, it's so frustrating. It's frustrating for your customers. It's frustrating for your sales associates. So that's why we're going to talk about offline ticket entry today. What is offline? It seems to be a big mystery for some people. So I'm going to talk about the benefits and the limitations of offline, your daily processes in offline or testing in offline if you don't use it every day, which we like you to use it every day, but some people don't. So how to test. And then we'll just kind of look a little bit under the hood. How does this thing offline work? So what is offline ticket entry? It's actually a local install of Counterpoint, but it's a slimmed down version, kind of like Counterpoint Light, like a diet soda doesn't have sugar. Offline ticket entry only can ring sales. So you can't do anything in the back office. Each workstation has its own copy of the database, and they all run independently of each other. So that's what offline ticket entry is. The benefits of offline ticket entry is you can continue to ring sales, even if your workstations can't connect to the server. It's useful for network outages, power failures, hopefully you have a backup power supply, scheduled server maintenance, sidewalk sales, trade shows, typically used in a LAN, WAN, and multi-site environment. And we have found that running it offline improves your hardware performance. Here's what you can't do in offline, and it's not much. You can't do a void after. Void after is you rang the sale, you completed the sale, the receipt printed, and the customer changed their mind and wants to pay a different way. So void afters cannot be done in offline. Void durings can and void line can. When it comes to closing, if you do the closing routine of count, reconcile, and post, you can count in offline, but you have to go to the full-blown install to do your reconcile and post. If you accept accounts receivable, you can still take a payment on account in offline, but you can't apply it anywhere. You can't apply it to a specific ticket. You cannot modify your user preferences. If you use gift registries do not work in offline. If you use the message center to send internal emails or instant messages, those will not work in offline. There's absolutely no back office functionality. No receiving, no purchasing, no transfers, but there are views, so you can look at things. You just can't make or edit certain back office transactions or any back office transactions. You can make a quote in offline, but you can't recall an existing quote. You can create a layaway in offline, but you can't process an existing layaway in offline. So that's it, really not a lot of limitations. So do you even have offline? Maybe you have it and you don't know you have it. So if you go to Setup, System, Registration, you'll notice under the Registered Options box right here that I have offline ticket entry. When you log into Counterpoint on your full-blown install, if you look at the launch pad, you're an admin, you'll see all these choices on the launch pad. When you log into offline, there's a lot fewer choices. But you can still, in offline, you can add customer records, you can edit them, you can update workstation settings, you can configure point of sale devices, and you can look but just not modify items or vendors. So how do you operate in offline? Well, it's pretty easy. First, you click on the icon that says Counterpoint Offline. And when you're logging in at the main screen, it's still your same user ID. It's still your same password. But if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll get a visual clue that you're logging into offline because it says offline right down at the bottom. When you're running an offline or you're testing an offline, we recommend activating your drawer in offline. You can activate in the full blown, but then you might have to wait a few minutes for offline to see that activation. So it's just a lot faster if you just log into offline, activate your drawer. And it's the same. It's the same username, your same password. You pick a store, you pick a drawer, and then you just process your sales transactions as you normally do. Now, sometimes when you're activating a drawer, and this is not unique to offline, you can also see this in your regular Counterpoint install. Sometimes you get this message and it's very scary and people get, oh, and they log a support ticket. What this message means is, really what it should say is, someone already counted this drawer. They already activated it. So you can't activate it a second time. That's all that means. So if you get this message, just click OK, close out of the activation window and start ringing sales. At the end of the day, if counting is part of your closing routine, you'll go to count the drawer in offline. Same thing, same username, same password, pick your station, pick your drawer, click on count and count the drawer. I also recommend looking at the edit list, the ticket edit list in offline and in the full-blown Counterpoint. The ticket edit list is simply a report of your unposted transactions. And you'll notice in my example here, tickets created in offline start with OFF. So you want to compare your edit list in offline to the edit list in your full-blown Counterpoint. Make sure there's nothing missing from offline. And when you're filtering in that report, you can actually filter for your offline station, or you can filter for tickets that begin with OFF. Once you've verified that all the offline sales have reached Counterpoint, some people do a button to reconcile and then a separate button to post. Some people come in here into drawer management. And in drawer management, you can reconcile and post. Either one is fine. So how does offline communicate with the server? You know, a lot of people see that word offline and they literally think that the station is offline and it's not talking to the server. But if your server is up and running, then the workstations are talking to the server quite frequently. And it's using this service called CP services. Now, every 15 minutes on the server side, Counterpoint, the Counterpoint services extracts new tickets, new customers from offline and just puts it in a package and sends it up to the server. And in turn, the server, if you've done any modifications, any configuration modifications in Counterpoint, the server packs up a package with those configuration changes and sends it down to the offline stations. On each workstation, this service is actually contacting the service every couple of minutes. I said every minute, but it might be 2 or 3. And the service is just checking, hey, do I need to send something from offline to the server? Does the server need to send something down to the offline? So you're only truly offline if your server goes down. So this is the service I'm talking about. If you're at an offline station and you go down here into the system tray, down here, see this little caret, you click on that, you'll see this icon that I have here in red. It's really hard to see. I put a copy, this is what it looks like. It's still not a very good screenshot. But if you double click on that, that will actually show you your service status. So here's a full-blown window. When I double clicked on that icon, you can see the connection status and the data status. And if you right click on the icon, again, you can see the status, or you can extract, you know, if you have a ticket awaiting extraction and you want it to get queued, you can extract now from this pop-up, or you can go here and extract now. You can also configure your local services. So if the service has stopped, you can actually start it by right-clicking on that icon. And I'll show you that a little bit later on today. You can also view your offline logs. Now that synchronization service, again, it's talking a lot, every couple of minutes. So if you look at this service and you see tickets awaiting extraction and it's more than 0, you can just force it by extracting now, and then you'll notice it goes into packages queued, and then in a couple of minutes it goes down to the server. And a reminder, tickets that are created in offline typically have a naming convention for the ticket of OFF. And also remember, when you want to post or do a void after, you have to exit offline in order to do those. Okay, so here's some best practices. I have some people that run it offline all the time because of the hardware performance is so much better. But I have some people that say, I only want to run it offline when the server goes down. So it's super, super important to test offline on a weekly basis. So in other words, if you've been running Counterpoint for a year or so, you've never tested offline, but you have it, the server goes down, it's not the best time to find out offline isn't working. So on a weekly basis, you want to log into offline, activate your drawer, ring some sales. When you're all done testing, you can count if that's part of your closing routine in offline, run the edit list, check your services, make sure everything's been synced, tickets awaiting extraction, uh, in the queue, that they're all set to 0. Then you can log in to the full-blown Counterpoint, compare the edit list, reconcile, and post the tickets. Now, if you were just testing, you could also log into your full-blown install and just void the tickets that you were testing with in offline. If you're the type of operation that counts in the back room, in other words, you don't like your cashier standing at the workstation counting their drawer down because it's kind of a security risk. So you pull the tills and you count them in the back office. You want to make sure everything is synced between offline and your back office before you start counting, reconciling, and posting. Okay, and so here we're looking at that example again. I right clicked on the services, I checked my tickets awaiting extraction, it's 0, my package is queued or 0, I'm all synced up. Now, what if you go to that icon and there's a big red X on it, right? Well, that means the services aren't working. So if you see a big red X, you can call support if you like, or you can check a couple of things. So the red X is going to mean offline is not communicating with the server. And so your edit list online and offline are probably aren't going to match. You're not going to find offline tickets in the full-blown install. So what's a person to do, right? You can log a support ticket if you like. That's fine. My services aren't running. There's a big fat red X in front of it. Or if you right click on that icon, you can go to configure local services. And you can see here, there's a start and a stop. So if your services are here, where it says, you need to start, you just double click on it, give it a moment, and they'll restart. Okay, so let's get into the software and take a look at this firsthand. So I mentioned when you log into Counterpoint, your main menu is going to look different. So here's my full-blown install, right? See everything on my Launchpad? And when I navigate, I see lots and lots of stuff. Now I'm going to go to my offline install, and you can see there's a lot less on the Launchpad. And even if I go to setup, I can go to system, but I can just see the registration and workstations. I can configure devices, but nothing else. If I go to customers, I can make customers, but there's no utilities here. There's no reports. So basically offline, its intention is literally to ring sales. Now I had mentioned earlier, do you know if you even have offline? Chances are you do, but let's check. So if you go to setup, system, registration, and you can't do that here in offline, so I have to actually come down to here. So if you go to setup, system, registration right there, pretty easy, and there it is. Now, if you forget how to get here, don't forget your cool search. You can come up here and just type registration. And Counterpoint will take you right to it. All right, so now I'm ready to either work in offline or to test offline. So the first thing I'm going to do is to activate a drawer. So I'm going to come to point of sale. I'm going to go to drawers and I'm going to activate. And I put in my username. I have my passwords turned off, but normally you put in your password. Select a drawer, store, select a drawer, and then click activate. So now I'm just going to put in my opening balance and click OK. And now I'm ready to ring sales. Now, what happens if, Gina comes on duty, she activates a drawer and offline, or even in the full-blown install, and somebody else steps up to her workstation because she went on break and they don't know that she opened, and so they go to activate. So I'll just pick that same drawer. There's that message. And it really should say, this drawer has already been activated. Go ahead and start ringing sales. So I'm just going to click OK. So now I'm ready to ring sales. So you can do ticket entry or touchscreen. Most people use touchscreen. Again, your username, your password, store, station, and drawer. You can see down here it's offline. And we'll just wait for that to load. Sometime today. So when it comes to sales, there's nothing any different looking in offline ticket entry or offline touchscreen ticket entry. It all looks the same and it behaves the same. So if I want to select a customer, I can just come up here to customer and say, you know what? I want to select, I think I'm in here. Let's select Gina today. There I am. Okay. And then I'm just going to sell. So, scan, 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 or if something won't scan, you go into the item lookup, choose the item that they're buying. Let's say I want a hot dog today. And maybe I want a slice of cake. Okay, now I'm ready to take payment. It's exactly like you would take payment at any transaction anywhere in Counterpoint. You go to your payment screen, you select a tender type. In this case, I'm taking cash. Customer's giving me $3, and I click OK. Okay, so that sale is done. Now notice this says OFF because it's a ticket created and offline. Now, just for fun, let's go look at the services real quick. So I'm just going to minimize this. I'm going to come down to this little caret down here, right? So here's my icon right here. I'm just going to double click on it. And right now, the services is collapsed. So I'm just going to open it up. And you can see everything synced. So that sale that I just rang up, it's already gone down to the server. Now, what happens if this service stops working, and then there's no communication? You can, of course, you can still ring it offline, but if the services is not running, then those tickets are never going to make it down to the server. So I'm going to just kind of force it not to run. So I'm going to close out of here, and I come down here, and I'm going to come here, and I'm just going to stop the services from running. Now you won't see all this, when you go here. I just have a lot of installs, but I'm just going to stop the service here. And it takes a moment to stop. And then I want you to notice this little green square down here. This green square indicates visually, without looking at this window, that the services are running. Now, notice how the green square turned red. That means the services aren't running. The services do more than control that offline communication. They also are in charge of your Zooms and your time clock and your validated returns. So this has probably happened to you, and people panic when this happens. So I go in to look at an item, right? When your services aren't running, you're going to kind of notice that Counterpoint's a little bit sluggish. But if you go and select something like a customer or an item and you zoom in on it, you'll get this scary message. That one, okay? Again, you're not out of business, log a support ticket. It's not the end of the world. Or you can start the services manually just by coming down to that icon down here, double clicking on it. I'm sorry, not double clicking on it. Right click, configure local services. and then you can just click on this start. I'm going to leave it turned off for now just so I can demonstrate that even though the services aren't working, even though the workstation isn't communicating with the server, I can still ring sales. So I'm going to go back to point of sale. I think I already have the window open here. There we are. I'm just going to put a couple of items on this ticket, maybe a sports coat in navy 30. I'm going to go ahead to the payment screen. I'm going to take cash, and the customer's giving me $20. That's a pretty decent price for a sports coat, right? And it's actually on sale. Okay, and then yes, it's done. Okay, and then again, my ticket begins with OFF. Now let's go look at our services, right? So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to double click, and see how everything is disconnected. There's nothing here. So I'm going to restart the service. So I'm going to come here, right click, figure local services. Now watch my red square down here because it's going to turn green again. Just going to double click on start. And it's just going to take a moment or not. That was very fast. Now my square down here is still red, but sometimes it takes a little while for that to catch up. But let's just go look at the services. Still not running. Well, let's try that again. Ah, there's no X. See that? Look at that. No X. See, it just takes a moment. Oh, look, my red square is green. So you got to be a little patient. That took what, all of a minute. So let's just go ahead and look at this again. Double click. Oh, here it is down here. Okay. Notice how because I was offline, you know, offline is still waiting for that ticket to extract, and it will. It'll go to a package as queued in just like, 1 or 2 minutes. But maybe it's the end of the day and I want to get out of here. And I'm really impatient and I don't want to wait a minute or two. You can actually come down here and just manually click on extract now. Okay, and it gives you a message, you say okay, and then pretty soon you'll see the packages queued go to 1 and then it'll go to 0. Now remember, before we actually do our closing routine, our reconcile post, we want to make sure those offline tickets have made it down to the full-blown install. So I recommend coming here to, point of sale, tickets. Maybe you don't do the closing, you don't do the count, but you still want to check this edit list. So I'm going to click on the ticket edit list. And there's nothing fancy you need to do on this report. You just click on preview. It'll only show you unposted transactions from offline ticket entry. So when I click on preview, you can see there's 2 sales that I rang, 15 and 16, right? Now, when I compare that before I do my closing routine, the reconcile post in full-blown install. So let me just go check my services again. I'm just going to double click. See how the tickets awaiting extraction went to 0 and the packages queued went to 0. So if you are that type of business that's going to count everything in the back office, check these services and make sure these are both 0, and then go ahead and do your closing routine. Now, if I do want to count an offline, pretty easy. I'm just going to go ahead and count. Just like counting, ticket, point of sale, drawers, drawer count, user, password, store, drawer, and count. And it looks just like your regular count screen. I counted $250. I didn't have any checks. And then okay. Okay, so that's all done. Now I'm going to go into the full-blown install and I'm going to compare the edit list. I'm going to make sure those 2 offline sales made it down to full-blown counterpoint before I actually do my closing routine and reconcile and post. So I'm going to go home and I'm going to go to point of sale and I'm going to go to tickets, ticket edit list, show me a list of my unposted sales. And I don't want to see the sales from my other stations that are not offline. I just want to see the offline tickets. So you can come here to the document header. You could actually select the station, or you can modify the filter with document begins with and just type OFF here. And then preview. And there's my 2 sales. So not too mysterious, right? Works pretty good. Okay, now I'm ready to do my closing routine. So I can either go to drawers and I can reconcile, and then I can go to tickets and I can post, or I can go to drawers and drawer management and do my closing routine from here. So you can see, even though I counted this in offline, it does show up as counted here. And if you look over to this column here, it even tells you, well, was this, were these tickets created in offline? Was it counted in offline? And it says true. So it was. So I'm just going to go ahead and post because I don't do a reconcile. And of course, when you're posting, please remember to always use ticket date. Don't put a date in this field. Always, always, always use ticket date. I'm going to post. And another thing that I ask is while you're posting, don't walk away from the computer, wait till the end because this is what you're looking for. Ooh, no errors. Yay. I can move on with my life. This is the second message. You know, posted successfully, zero had problems. If it says something other than zero had problems, don't panic, not the end of the world, not an emergency, but do log a support ticket and let us know, and we'll fix it up for you. Okay, so let's go to back here, and we'll do this. And then I gotta fix my presenters mode. Okay, so hopefully, some of your key takeaways today. What is offline? Hopefully you know what that is at this point. Local install of the database, kind of like Counterpoint Lite. Daily processes, pretty much the same. Activate the drawer, ring your sales, count. The only thing you really can't do is, void after, process existing layaways, create quotes, process quotes. And then, of course, under the hood, know that the offline station, as long as the server's up and running, they're constantly talking. If the server goes down, then you manually have to launch offline if you're not already in it. So offline just doesn't magically launch itself when your server goes down. You actually have to click on the icon. Okay, I always appreciate your feedback and topic suggestions for 2023 at this point. You will get a survey with your video. It's a real quick survey. You can remain anonymous if you like. Or if you're so excited you'd like to take the survey right away, go out to our website, www.cksystem.com/training bites. If you want customized training tailored to your business, your data, give me a call. When we're in these sessions, it's a golf store, so it might have more meaning to you to learn processes or improve your processes in Counterpoint by doing a one-on-one training. Just give me a call at the main number, extension 3, or you can email training@cksystem.com. Next month, we're going to be a little bit later on the training bites because the first Wednesday of the month falls on the Labor Day weekend. So September 14th, we're going to talk about data dictionary basics. How to modify a label name. For example, oh, it says price dash one on the item record, but that doesn't make any sense to anybody. I want it to say retail. Well, we can do that through the data dictionary. We can make fields required. Oh, my buyers are always forgetting to populate the vendor. We can make it required. Or, I go into a search and I search by vendor and nothing comes up. So through the data dictionary, we can make values keyword searchable when you go into a lookup and you use keyword. Okay, so let's look at some questions. I've got a few in the queue right now. Okay. Oh, that's a good question. What's the setting, and it's a store setting, set up point of sale stores, to activate an offline mode? Auto activation means I'm going to open the drawer with no money. It has, it's an offline thing. It's a full blown thing. If that switch is enabled under setup point of sale stores, then when your people, log into point of sale, if the drawer is not activated, they're going to get this pop up that says, what do you want to do? You want to activate or auto activate? And the default is auto activate. So if they click on or press enter or click on auto activate, the drawer is open with no money. Okay. Okay, every once in a while we have interrupted service, maybe for 2 hours, so we work offline. Perfect. By the end of the day, aren't those tickets done during that time automatically sent to the server? Yeah, as long as your server's running, those offline tickets are, constantly talking to the server. But, before you do anything for end of day in your full blown install, just check the services and make sure the package is queued and the tickets waiting for extraction are 0. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, and Patrick, thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. Okay, we've used offline before, but it was only able to take cash. Um, if your internet is working, you can still take credit cards. Okay, it's not a cash only thing. If your internet is not working, that's the challenge. However, there's a solution. In the latest release of Counterpoint, there's something called Store and Forward. And Store and Forward allows you to keep taking credit cards in offline even when your internet isn't working. And then once your internet comes back online, Store and Forward syncs up all your credit cards. So it's not a cash only thing. Okay, can you please put up the slide that indicates when we should use offline one more time? Mike, I actually have, pretty straightforward answer on that. We recommend offline all the time. Offline all the time. That way, it's never a guessing game as to whether or not offline is going to work. Or in Debbie's example, maybe they use it a couple of hours a day. So it's up to you. I have some people that run an offline all the time because of the hardware performance. And I have some people like Debbie that just, use offline when, for a couple of hours a day. But if you're not using offline all the time, please make sure you test once a week. And I even have a nice little checklist for testing offline. So if you email training, I'd be happy. I can't put the checklist here in the chat because this silly chat doesn't allow attachments. But send an email to training. I'll be glad to send you that checklist. It's just a little short Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Uh, so you can't recall orders either. That's such a good question because in olden time offline, you could not process orders. Uh, in offline now, you can process existing orders, but I think you do have to have a connection to the server in order to do that. But anyways, the short answer is yes, you can process orders in offline. You can make orders and you can process orders. Same with holds. In old time, offline, you couldn't recall holds. So in the newer versions, you can create a hold and recall a hold locally. So in other words, I'm at workstation 1, I put something on hold. I can only recall that hold in offline at workstation 1. Okay. How do you know if you have the ability to store and forward? Unless you specifically requested it with the new service pack, chances are you don't have it. And it's kind of new. Um, it's a good question. So Marty, I see you're on the call. Is there a way to check in Counterpoint or somewhere for store and forward? We'll come back to that. What are the performance increases in offline? Mentioned before, your hardware is going to behave better. Okay, just not quote. So you can create a quote in offline, you just can't recall the quote in offline. How do you know if you have the current version of offline? A good question. If you have the current version of Counterpoint, 8.57, then your offline is 8.57. If you have an older version of Counterpoint, 8.52, then your offline is 8.52. Can gift cards be sold and redeemed and store credits? Absolutely, as long as your services are running. Okay, so good questions. Good questions, everybody. So, Debbie, I'm going to get back to you on the store and forward question. It looks like Marty is not answering my question, unless he's on mute and answering. So, any other questions? Oh, there we go. Here's another response. You have to code the gift certificate to be sold and redeemed in offline. Some people have gift card codes where they, sell in certain denominations, 5, 10, 15. But as long as you have a control enabled that says, I can sell the gift card for any amount, you can sell a gift card for any amount in offline. There's just a control under setup system company. So it's not necessary to activate the drawer in line if you've already opened and activated in Counterpoint. That's a true statement. However, if you activate in the full-blown install, you might have to wait 2 or 3 minutes to ring a sale on offline because, the offline station needs to see that activated drawer. So that's why we recommend, when you activate, if you're testing, you're running an offline all the time, just activate an offline. It'll just save you some wait time. Okay, any other questions? All very good questions. Okay, again, just a reminder, you will get a copy of this recording Friday, Monday at the latest. Remember, surveys attached. Go ahead and fill out the survey. You want to remain anonymous, you can. And of course, give me some topic suggestions. The next session is at 1 o'clock today. So if you want to attend the second one, no problem. Okay, say you're down for, say, 2 days. Then posting has to be after you get back into Counterpoint. Yeah, that's correct. That is absolutely a correct statement. But again, that's the beauty of offline is, you can still ring sales. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so 1 o'clock is another session today. Maybe some members of your team missed this morning's session. You want to attend the session a second time because it was just so awesome. And then, of course, remember Data Dictionary Basics, September 14th, same time, 10 and 1 Eastern. Okay, I have another question that just came in. Do tickets and offline keep them in off? Oh, that's a good question. No. Once you post, you won't see those tickets in offline anymore because they're posted. They're part of history. But good question. Okay, and you are welcome for people that are thanking me. I appreciate it. Okay, any other questions? Oh, I mean, do they keep the off part of the ticket number? Oh, another really great question. Yeah, that's true. That because that's the numbering convention that we typically give those tickets. That way they're easy to identify. So yeah, even after you post, they still say OFF, just to indicate, this ticket was created and offline. All right, if there aren't any more questions, I thank you for your time. I always appreciate it. And everyone have a wonderful day.